On May 27, 1940, a German sergeant led his patrol through the French village of Lepinet. They moved in tight formation, rifles ready, scanning windows and doorways for British resistance. The sergeant was experienced, careful, but he sensed something wrong. Then he looked up at the tower ahead and saw a man standing at the top with something in his hands. Not a rifle, something longer. The sergeant opened his mouth to shout a warning. An arrow punched through his chest. He was dead before he hit the ground. This is the story of John Churchill, the British officer who went to war with a longbow, a Scottish broadsword, and bagpipes. The man who captured 42 Germans using only his sword. The soldier who made the last recorded longbow kill in history. Let's begin. John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill was born on September 16, 1906, in what was then British Ceylon, now Sri Lanka. His father worked as a district engineer. His mother was from County Cavan, Ireland. The family moved to Hong Kong when Churchill was 4, then back to England when he was 11. Churchill grew up exploring, riding motorcycles, looking for adventure wherever he could find it. In 1926, Churchill graduated from the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst and was commissioned into the Manchester Regiment. He was sent to Burma in Southeast Asia. There, he learnt to play the bagpipes from the pipe major of the Cameron Highlanders. He also spent his free time riding his motorcycle everywhere. On one journey, he drove 1,500 miles from Rangoon to Pune, India, to take a signals course. This was before proper roads existed. Even though he crashed into a water buffalo on the way back, he made it in time for the Burma Rebellion. By 1936, peacetime army life bored Churchill. He resigned his commission and moved to Nairobi, Kenya, where he worked as a newspaper editor and a male model. He also got small roles in films. In 1926, he played an archer in The Thief of Baghdad. In 1938, he got another film role in A Yank at Oxford. He was good enough with the bagpipes to take second place at the 1938 Aldershot military tattoo piping competition. The fact that an Englishman beat Scottish pipers caused a scandal. In 1939, he represented Britain at the World Archery Championships in Oslo. He placed 26th. But then, Germany invaded Poland. Churchill rejoined the army. The war he had been waiting for had arrived. Churchill was assigned to the Manchester Regiment as part of the British Expeditionary Force sent to France in 1940. He carried standard army gear, an SMLE rifle, ammunition, kit. He also carried his 6-foot longbow, a leather case of arrows, and a Scottish broadsword. His commanding officer asked why. Churchill replied that any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed. By May 1940, the German invasion of France was in full swing. The British were retreating towards Dunkirk. Churchill's unit was covering the withdrawal near the village of Lepinet. The Germans were advancing fast. Churchill was ordered to hold a position near a farmhouse to buy time for the main force to fall back. He positioned his men in the farmhouse tower and surrounding buildings. Machine guns were set up to cover the street. Churchill climbed to the top of the tower with his longbow. At 30 yards, he saw the German patrol appear. The sergeant was in front. Churchill fitted a barbed arrow to his bowstring, drew, aimed, and released. The arrow hit the sergeant in the chest. The man dropped. Churchill's machine gunners opened fire. The patrol broke apart and ran for cover. Churchill drew his broadsword, climbed down from the tower, and charged into the fight. His men followed. They killed or captured the remaining Germans before falling back to the next defensive position. Churchill had just made the last recorded longbow kill in military history. Churchill didn't shoot the arrows as show off. He used it as the signal for his men to open fire. Churchill used the longbow because it was silent. A rifle shot would have alerted the entire German force. An arrow killed one man quietly and started the ambush on Churchill's terms. But Churchill's bow was not the only unusual weapon that he carried. The broadsword was real, the bagpipes were real, and he used them all in combat. After the evacuation at Dunkirk, Churchill volunteered for the newly formed commandos. These were special force units trained for raids behind enemy lines. Churchill was second in command of No. 3 Commando. On December 27, 1941, Churchill took part in Operation Archery, a raid on the German force stationed at Vagsø, Norway. As the landing craft approached the shore, Churchill stood at the front playing March of the Cameron Men on his bagpipes. When the ramps dropped, he leapt off, still playing, then threw a grenade and charged forward with his sword drawn. The commandos overrun the German positions in under 10 minutes. Churchill was awarded the Military Cross. By July 1943, Churchill was commanding officer of No. 2 Commando. They landed in Sicily with the Allied invasion force. Churchill came ashore with his broadsword swung around his waist, his longbow and arrows over his neck, and his bagpipes under his arm. His men were used to this by now. The Germans were not. Churchill led his unit to capture the town of Molna. Then, he was ordered to take a German observation post outside of the town that controlled the pass down to Solano beachhead. The post was heavily defended. Churchill and a corporal infiltrated the town at night. They moved silently through the streets. Churchill spotted the German sentries by the glow of their cigarettes. He approached the first sentry, alone, sword in hand. He put the blade against the man's throat and told him to be quiet. The sentry surrendered. Churchill took his rifle and used it to force the rest of the post to surrender. 42 German soldiers and a mortar squad laid down their weapons. Churchill marched them back to British lines by himself. He later said, "I maintain that as long as you tell a German loudly and clearly what to do, if you're senior to him, he will cry, 'Jawohl,' and get on with it enthusiastically, whatever the situation." The 42 prisoners carried their own weapons with the firing bolts removed. They also carried their mortar and the mortar bombs. They pulled a farm cart with 5 wounded men in it. Churchill walked behind them with his sword. During the operation, Churchill lost his broadsword in hand-to-hand combat with a German unit. After securing the prisoners, he went back to retrieve it. On the way, he encountered an American patrol heading towards enemy lines. The sergeant leading the patrol refused to turn around. Churchill told him, "I'm going my own way, and I won't come back for you a bloody third time." In 1944, Churchill was sent to Yugoslavia. He led commandos supporting Tito's partisans. These were local resistance fighters in Yugoslavia, from the island of Vis. In May, he was ordered to raid the German-held island of Brac. He assembled a force of 1,500 partisans and units from 43 Commando and 40 Commando. The landing was easy. No Germans fired on them. Then, they spotted the German gun positions. The partisans decided to wait until the next day. Churchill's bagpipes signalled the commandos to attack anyway. During the battle, an RAF Spitfire mistook the commandos for Germans and strafed them. Churchill withdrew for the night and relaunched the attack at dawn. Only Churchill and 6 other men reached the objective. A mortar shell hit the group. Everyone was killed or wounded except Churchill. He was playing "Will Ye No Come Back Again" on his bagpipes when the Germans closed in. Grenades knocked him unconscious and he was captured. The Germans believed Churchill was related to Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister. He was not, but the Germans flew him to Berlin for interrogation, then sent him to Sachsenhausen concentration camp. This was a special section for high-value prisoners of war. Churchill was there less than 2 months before he escaped. He and a Royal Air Force officer crawled under the wire through an abandoned drain. They tried to walk to the Baltic coast, but they were recaptured near Rostock, a few miles from the sea. In April 1945, Churchill and 140 other prisoners were transferred to Tyrol, guarded by SS troops, Hitler's elite military force. The prisoners feared they'd be executed. An Austrian army unit took over from the SS and let the prisoners go. Churchill walked across the Alps. He covered 150 miles on a broken ankle. An American reconnaissance unit found him 8 days later. Churchill wanted to fight in the Pacific. The war in Europe was over, but Japan had not surrendered. Churchill was sent to Burma. By the time he arrived, the atomic bombs had been dropped. Japan surrendered. Churchill was disappointed. He later said, "If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept this war going for another 10 years. After the war, Churchill served in Palestine during the 1948 Arab-Israeli conflict. He was in Jerusalem when Arab forces ambushed a convoy carrying doctors and patients to Hadashash Hospital. Churchill led a rescue operation and saved over 500 people. He retired from the military in the 1950s with 2 Distinguished Service Orders and 2 military crosses. Churchill spent his retirement restoring steamboats on the River Thames and participating in motorcycle speed trials. He also became the first person to surf the 5-foot tidal bore of the River Severn. Every day, he commuted home by train. As the train approached his stop, he would throw his briefcase out of the window into his back garden rather than have to carry it from the station. When a railway guard asked him why, Churchill replied, "It was more convenient." John Churchill died on March 8, 1996 at the age of 89. He had fought through World War II with weapons from the 14th century. He had made the last longbow kill in recorded history. He had captured 42 enemy soldiers with only a sword. He had escaped from concentration camps twice. He had played bagpipes while leading men into battle against machine guns and artillery. His motto remained consistent throughout his life: any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed. Today, Churchill's weapons are preserved in museums. His story is told in books and documentaries, but the most important legacy Churchill left is this: war is not just technology and tactics, it's people.